What's going on, guys? Here with Tech, and welcome back to some Fire to Make a grinding, because Lord knows we do plenty of that in this freaking egg lock. It is crazy how much they demand you to do a bunch of grinding, but I actually don't even know when this grinding was. I have like 3 different recordings of grindings just sitting on my computer waiting to be commentated over, and I figured I need to stop being lazy. And despite that, this actually isn't story time today, because I just finished a little while ago recording Showdown Scoreboard episode 15, which I believe went up yesterday. Today this is being uploaded. And while editing that video, I actually got the topic for a little discussion video I wanted to do, and I actually mentioned this on Twitter and got pretty interesting feedback. Like 5 people favorited the tweet, so I don't mean to brag, but I'm a pretty big deal. But the tweet, I'll actually go find the tweet because it's relevant to this, obviously, and it was talking about hacks in Pokemon, and you know, critical hits and statuses and high rolls and low rolls and all that kind of stuff, and how that kind of stuff can completely change the course of a battle. Like in that battle with Red, or whatever his name was, like the guy with Red's team, if I would have outsped that Venusaur, because it was a speed tie, if I would have won the speed tie and hit that choice band return, it could have been completely different. Or if he would have missed that, if he would have missed the sleep powder, it would have been completely different. If those Pokemon didn't live on 1 HP, if I didn't get the low rolls there, it could have been completely different. It's just all these little variables make a huge difference in the game, and a lot of people don't like that, but a lot of people do like it. And what I tweeted out was, I didn't really understand why people talk about hacks ruining Pokemon. It's like, you choose to play the game. I don't know why you're complaining about it. It's like going to McDonald's and being upset that their food isn't healthy. It's like, you're fully aware you're going to McDonald's. You're not exactly going there for like a nice salad or something like that. But a lot of people say that like it's really frustrating playing a game where outside variables can control whether or not you win. And the people who make those kind of comments, I don't really understand where you're coming from with that, because one, you're choosing to play Pokemon. If you stop playing it because of that kind of stuff, fantastic, because you're not going to enjoy it, obviously. But honestly, if Pokemon didn't have things like high rolls and low rolls and crits and statuses and all these extras that just kind of make the game more unpredictable, in my opinion a little more exciting and dramatic, would it really be fun? Because crits and statuses and stuff like that make it so it's not so bland and generic, because otherwise it would literally be like the overused tier. It would be even worse than it already is, because it'd just be these Pokemon that basically can't be beaten without the use of, like, hey, maybe a crit or something like that, or if damage, or if you know, if stats didn't vary around and stuff, and if damage did a very static exact number every time, it would be too predictable. You'd be able to work around your opponent perfectly, and factoring in statuses and critical hits and high lows and roll rolls and all this stuff that makes the game a lot more, in my opinion, fun. It makes it where someone who's maybe not as skilled does somewhat stand a chance in this kind of thing. And I guess to a certain extent you can almost compare it to Super Smash Bros. With items. But I also don't think that's true. Items, to a certain extent, make the game a lot more sporadic. I don't know if sporadic is the right word. It makes it a lot more random, where you can have 2 players of completely different skill levels, but you give the player that's less skilled, suddenly you give him a hammer, and it's not as such an unevenly matched playing field. Well, it still is very unevenly matched, but now in the opposite direction. But in Smash Bros, when you don't have the items, it's not so, I don't even know if I want to say one-sided. It's, in Pokemon, if you don't have the outside factors of all the hacks and all the other things I mentioned, it really will just become too boring and stale, because it'll just be the same very small group of Pokemon that can perfectly counter each other. Like, you would never have the variety and stuff, and things like Sniper and crits and the GBA. For those of you who don't know, the Pokemon Global Battle Association is a pretty big thing in the Pokemon community right now. It's like a baseball kind of thing, but with Pokemon teams instead. They've been having battles that are very, very, very heavily hacks involved, and in my opinion, seeing all the drama of like high rolls and roll rolls and praying for crits or getting statuses and stuff like that makes it so much more enjoyable to watch, in my opinion. If it was all just like, oh, I know this is going to do exactly this much, so I will counter it by doing this, or I know I could win because of all this stuff, how is that any fun if it's just like a guaranteed kind of thing? I think the randomness of it is what makes competitive Pokemon so entertaining. With that said, I can kind of understand the frustration of competitive players because they're taking skill out of it to a certain extent with these random factors. But in my opinion, the most skilled thing with Pokemon is being able to work around the random factors, and even when something negative goes your way, being able to handle that situation in a moment's notice and be able to change your strategy to work around that. And yeah, it does suck when you lose because of something completely out of your control. Like when in that last battle on my last episode of Scoreboard, how I was outsped and put to sleep. He could have missed that and it would have been a completely different game. I could have won the speed tie, would have been a completely different game. Stuff like that, where it really does take all control away from you, really does kind of suck sometimes, but is anyone really going to complain when that goes in their favor? No, you're going to be like, oh, that's the game, oh well. But if you lose to that kind of stuff, you're like, wow, that's so stupid, I could have won, but no, the game screwed me over. That's just how it is. It's the Call of Duty syndrome. I'm coming up with this right off the top of my head. In Call of Duty, if you just destroy everybody and go like 30 kills and 0 deaths, you're not going to complain, you're going to think you're awesome. But in Call of Duty, when you go 0 kills and like 30 deaths, you're going to assume, oh, these guys are hacking and aimbotting and this is so stupid and this game is broken and no fun, because you're not doing well. And it's the mindset of when you're not doing well, you don't want to blame yourself, you want to blame outside factors basically. So I don't know, it's just something I came up with the top of my head. I just kind of want to do a little discussion about all the randomness in Pokemon and my mindset on that. And I'd love to know what you guys think if you ever do competitive Pokemon, or even just in the main, like, casually playing Pokemon, how gym leaders can get crits and just ruin your life in days, and Lord knows Nuzlocks and crits. Oh my god, the deaths that have come because of critical hits and just statuses and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd love to get you guys' opinion on that. I like doing these little discussion videos. I might start doing them a little more, especially because I have so much grinding to post for you guys. But that is going to do it for this little discussion. We should hopefully have another Fire Red Omega up for you guys later on today, maybe, assuming everything goes well. But until then, I'm Yo-Yo. Thank you guys for watching. Peace!